The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was a place of shining lights, crystal walls, and voices from hundreds of worlds. Every species gathered there claimed to be civilized, advanced, and wise. Yet under the surface, fear ruled them all. They feared one name above all others, the Draxion Empire. The Draxions were known as the galaxy's deadliest warriors. Their fleets were enormous, their weapons sharp and brutal, and their history filled with endless conquest. Entire civilizations had fallen under their claws. Many council members spoke of peace, but none ever dared to stand against the Draxions. That was the rule of the galaxy. No one challenged them until humanity arrived. Humanity had joined the council only 2 years ago. They were considered young, reckless, and far too new to understand the delicate balance of galactic politics. Other species treated them politely, but secretly laughed at their small fleets and their loud speeches about fairness. Captain Elias Ward sat at the human delegation seat. His uniform was plain compared to the bright robes of other races, but his eyes carried a sharpness that never faded. Around him sat ambassadors from Earth and Mars, nervous about the meeting. Humanity had been warned. Stay quiet, listen, and avoid trouble. But trouble came anyway. The Draxion High Commander had taken the floor. His voice was deep and rough, echoing through the chamber like a storm. The frontier worlds belong to us. Our claim is older than your council. We will not allow humans to expand there. Several alien leaders lowered their eyes. None would dare argue with the Draxions. The High Commander's armor glowed with crimson energy, and his claws tapped against the desk as he spoke. Elias felt his blood rise. Those frontier worlds were human colonies, where families had built homes on barren rocks, turning them into places of life. To give them up would mean abandoning thousands of men, women and children. The human ambassador, a careful woman named Lyra, leaned close to Elias. "Do not speak, please let this pass." But Elias stood. His chair scraped loudly and the sound carried across the chamber. All eyes turned to the human captain. "The frontier belongs to no empire," Elias said firmly. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the air. "Humans built those colonies with their own hands. We will not surrender them. Not to you. Not to anyone." A heavy silence fell. The Draxion High Commander rose to his full height, towering over everyone. His sharp teeth showed in what might have been a smile or a threat. "You dare?" he asked. His voice was so deep it shook the crystal walls. Elias did not flinch. "We dare." The council chamber exploded with noise. Some species gasped. Others whispered in disbelief. A few even laughed nervously. But most stayed silent, staring at the human captain as if he had just signed his own death. The Draxion slammed his clawed hand against the desk. "Then hear me, human. You have declared war on the Draxion Empire, and war with us means death." The chamber froze again. No one dared to breathe. The declaration was official. The Draxions did not bluff. When they declared war, they fought until one side was broken. The council leader, an elder of a peaceful bird-like race, spread his wings helplessly. "Please, Commander, perhaps this can be discussed," but the Draxion growled. "No discussion. The humans are enemies now. Their worlds will burn." With that, the Draxion delegation stormed out. The sound of their heavy boots echoed long after they were gone. The human delegation sat in shock. Ambassador Yara's hands shook. "Do you understand what you've done, Captain? You have doomed us all." Elias looked at her with calm eyes. "No, I refuse to bow." "There is a difference." News of the declaration spread across the galaxy in hours. Every species heard the same message. The humans have angered the Draxions. Many laughed. Some pitied them. Others began preparing trade deals to snatch up human worlds once they fell. On Earth, the reaction was chaos. The networks filled with debates, fear, and anger. People asked the same question. How can humanity fight the strongest warriors in the galaxy? But not everyone was afraid. In the shipyards of Mars, engineers worked faster than ever, turning cargo haulers into makeshift warships. On the colonies, settlers built bunkers, trained with weapons, and swore to defend their homes. Humanity had been underestimated before, and each time they had survived. Elias Ward returned to his flagship, the Resolute, orbiting Earth. The ship was not large compared to alien dreadnoughts, but it was strong, fast, and filled with loyal crew. As he walked through the corridors, he saw determination in every face. They all knew the odds. They all knew the danger. But they were ready. His first officer, Lieutenant Harper, met him on the bridge. "Sir, reports say the Draxians are already moving fleets to our frontier." Elias nodded. "Then we will be there before them." Harper frowned. "Sir, with respect, we don't have the numbers. Their fleet is—" "I know what their fleet is," Elias cut in. "But we have something they don't." "And what is that?" Elias looked at his crew and spoke softly, yet with steel in his tone. "We adapt, we learn, and we never give up." Meanwhile, on the frontier world of Haven 4, settlers watched the sky nervously. Rumors of war reached them quickly. Families gathered supplies. Children were moved into shelters and defense towers were powered up. Governor Rana, leader of the colony, spoke to her people in the central square. Her voice echoed through the dusty streets. "We have been told to fear the Draxians. We have been told no one can stand against them. But I tell you this, we are human. We have survived deserts, storms, and endless wars on our own world. We will survive this too." Her words lit fire in the hearts of the settlers. They were farmers, miners, and workers. But now they would be soldiers. In the dark of space far from Haven 4, a massive Draxion fleet gathered. Dozens of warships shaped like jagged blades glowed red under the light of nearby stars. The High Commander stood on his flagship's bridge, staring at a hologram of Earth. "These humans believe they are strong," he growled. "We will crush them so completely that no one will ever speak their name again." His officers bowed deeply. They believed it would be easy. To them, humanity was nothing more than an insect that dared to challenge a predator. But the High Commander did not know what humanity was truly capable of. He did not know their history of endless struggles, of empires rising and falling, of wars where survival was earned by wit and stubborn will. The Draxians thought they were the hunters. They had no idea the humans were about to teach them what it meant to be prey. Elias stood at the window of the Resolute watching the stars. His reflection stared back at him, calm but fierce. He whispered to himself, words meant only for his heart. "They think we're weak. They think we'll surrender. They have no idea who we are," and with that, humanity stepped into a war they had never wanted but could not avoid. A war that would decide not just their survival, but their place in the galaxy. For the first time in history, the Draxians had been challenged, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The first strike came faster than anyone expected. The Draxians did not waste time with warnings or speeches. Within a week of declaring war, a fleet of their warships jumped into human frontier space. Their target was clear: Haven 4, the colony that stood closest to their territory. For the Draxians, it was supposed to be a lesson. They wanted to crush Haven 4 so completely that the rest of humanity would tremble and surrender without a fight. The High Commander himself ordered it. "Show them what it means to face us." On Haven 4, Governor Rana had prepared as best she could. Farmers had turned their plows into barricades. Miners had reinforced tunnels under the colony, ready to hide families if the surface fell. Engineers had converted cargo drones into flying turrets. Still, when the sky darkened with the shadow of Draxian warships, fear spread like wildfire. Children cried. Families held each other tightly. Everyone knew the stories. No species had ever stopped the Draxians. Governor Rana stood at the colony command post watching the enemy ships descend. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed firm. "They think we are weak," she told her officers. "We will prove them wrong." In orbit above Haven 4, Captain Elias Ward's ship, the Resolute, waited with 2 smaller escorts. It was hardly a fleet, 3 human warships against 15 Draxian vessels. But Elias did not intend to fight the enemy head-on. On the bridge of the Resolute, Lieutenant Harper studied the tactical screen. Red icons filled it, representing enemy ships. "Sir, their firepower outmatches ours 10 to 1. If we fight directly, we won't," Elias said calmly. "Send the signal to the surface. Begin Operation Ember." Harper hesitated, then obeyed. "Yes, sir." Moments later, signals flashed from the colony. Lights across the settlement dimmed as power grids were rerouted. Heat signatures vanished. To Draxion sensors, the colony looked almost dead. The Draxion fleet commander barked out a laugh when he saw the readings. "They are already hiding," he said to his crew. "This will be easy." He ordered the first wave of warriors to descend. Draxian ground troops armed in heavy armor fell from orbit in drop pods that shook the ground like meteors. Dust clouds rose as the pods cracked open, and monstrous figures stepped out, weapons ready. They expected terrified farmers running for their lives. Instead, they were met with silence. The first Draxion unit marched into Haven 4's main square. Streets looked empty. Buildings were quiet. For a moment, the commander thought the colony had been abandoned. Then the ground exploded beneath them. Hidden charges, buried by miners, ripped open the earth. Draxion soldiers stumbled as fire and dust blinded them. From rooftops, human settlers opened fire with rifles and makeshift launchers. Cargo drones swooped down, firing improvised energy bolts. The Draxions roared and fired back, but the humans vanished into side streets and tunnels. Every corner was a trap. Every shadow held an ambush. From the command post, Governor Rana gave quick orders. Fall back from Sector 4. Lure them into the refinery. The settlers obeyed. The Draxions chased them straight into the refinery complex, where pipes filled with fuel stretched in every direction. The moment the enemy entered, humans triggered charges that ruptured the pipes. Flames burst through the facility, swallowing the Draxions in fire. The first wave was destroyed. In orbit, Elias watched the battle unfold on his screens. His lips tightened. Good, they underestimated us, but the victory was small. The Draxions still had most of their fleet above. And now they were angry. The enemy fleet commander slammed his clawed fist against the console.
Burn that colony to ashes. Fire on the surface!
Crimson beams rained down from the sky. Explosions tore through Haven 4's outskirts. Farms, roads, and empty storage buildings were destroyed in seconds. Elias acted quickly. Bring the Resolute between them and the colony. Make them aim at us instead. The human ship swung into position, its shields straining under enemy fire. Sparks lit up the bridge, shields at 60%. Harper shouted, "Hold steady," Elias ordered. "Target their support ship. Launch everything we have." The Resolute unleashed a barrage of missiles. Instead of hitting the enemy battleships directly, the missiles curved, weaving through space in unpredictable patterns. Draxion gunners laughed at the primitive weapons, until half of them suddenly split into decoys, confusing targeting systems. The real missiles struck the enemy support vessel, tearing through its hull. The Draxions were stunned. Humans were not fighting like other species. They were not rigid. They were not predictable. Elias leaned forward. "Record that. I want the whole fleet to see how the weak humans just destroyed one of their ships." Back on the surface, the settlers kept fighting with desperation and clever tricks. One group lured Draxion soldiers into a canyon, only to collapse it with mining charges. Another squad disguised old tractors as armored vehicles to draw enemy fire away from real defenses. Every loss hurt, but every victory gave hope. For the first time, humans realized the Draxions were not invincible. Governor Rana spoke to her people through the colony's comm system. Her voice echoed through the shelters and bunkers. "They came to break us. Instead they bleed. Remember this day. Humanity will not bow." By nightfall, the Draxions pulled back their ground forces. Hundreds of their soldiers were dead, their pride wounded. The enemy fleet hovered in orbit, still powerful but shaken. The commander growled in frustration. "This is not finished. We will return with the full strength of the Empire. Let them enjoy their small victory. It will be their last." The Draxion ships retreated into the void, vanishing into faster-than-light travel. On Haven 4, cheers filled the battered colony. Families embraced. Soldiers rested, exhausted but alive. They had done what no one thought possible. They had repelled the galaxy's deadliest warriors, at least for a day. Ilias landed on the surface to meet Governor Rana. The colony square was blackened with smoke, but spirits were bright. Children ran to the captain, staring up at him with wide eyes. "Did we really win?" one asked. Elias knelt, placing a hand on the child's shoulder. "We survived, and that means we won." Rana joined him, her face tired but proud. "They will come back stronger." "They will," Elias agreed. "But so will we, and next time we'll be ready." News of the battle spread across the galaxy like fire. For the first time in history, the Draxions had failed to crush their enemy in a first strike. Alien observers whispered in shock. Some thought it was luck. Others began to wonder if humans were something different, something dangerous. In the council chambers, ambassadors argued. Should they help the humans or stay out of the war? Fear of the Draxions held most of them silent, but deep inside, seeds of doubt grew. If humans could stand against the Empire, perhaps the galaxy's balance of power was about to change. On the bridge of the Resolute, Elias looked out into the stars. The war had just begun. He knew the Draxians would not forgive this insult. They would return with more ships, more soldiers, more fury, but humanity had shown its first weapon, their refusal to quit. Elias whispered quietly, almost to himself, "First blood is ours." And somewhere across the galaxy, the Draxian High Commander heard the reports, his pride burning like fire. He swore before his warlords, "Humanity will pay. We will break them, or we will burn with them." The stage was set. The galaxy watched in silence. The war of survival had truly begun. The victory at Haven 4 sent shockwaves across the stars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's deadliest warriors had been stopped. The Draxians called it a minor setback. They claimed the humans had won only because of tricks and luck. But everyone knew the truth. Something had changed. On Earth, people cheered when the news arrived. For once, humans were not only survivors but defenders. For once, the galaxy had to notice them. Yet deep inside, leaders knew the danger had only grown. The Draxians would come back, stronger, angrier, relentless. A week after the battle, Captain Elias Ward stood in the war room of the Resolute. Around the table floated holograms of his officers, Governor Rana, and other human commanders from nearby colonies. Maps of star systems glowed above them, showing red Draxian patrol routes and blue human settlements. Elias spoke clearly. "We proved we can resist them. But resistance is not enough. We need to strike back. If we wait for them to gather their full might, we'll be crushed." Lieutenant Harper frowned. "Sir, we don't have fleets like theirs. We don't have their weapons. What do we have to fight with?" Elias tapped the map. "We have something no Draxian has, imagination. They fight the same way every time. Direct, proud, predictable. That is their weakness. We will use it." Governor Rana nodded slowly. "You mean guerrilla war?" "Exactly," Elias said. "We hit where they don't expect. Supply lines, fuel depots, communications relays. Make them bleed every time they step into our space." Training began at once. Miners became pilots. Farmers learned to handle weapons. Old cargo ships were fitted with hidden cannons, their hulls painted to look harmless until it was too late. Engineers designed traps that could float in space. Drones disguised as debris, ready to explode when enemy ships passed. It was not the kind of war the Council would approve of. But it was the kind of war humanity needed. The first test came when scouts reported a Draxion supply convoy moving through a narrow star lane near Haven 6. It was guarded by 2 warships and carried enough fuel to power a fleet for weeks most species would never have dared to strike. But Elias saw an opportunity. The Resolute and 2 smaller human ships waited in the shadow of a dead moon. Engines off, lights dark. They looked like drifting rocks. Around them, drones floated silently, disguised as broken satellites. When the convoy entered the lane, Harper whispered, "They're here." Elias waited. The Draxian ships moved in a perfect line, arrogant and unaware. He let them pass into the narrowest part of the lane before giving the order. Now, the drones came to life. Engines roared as they charged at the convoy. At first, the Draxian escorts ignored them, thinking they were simple machines. Then the drones exploded, tearing through shields and ripping open one of the escorts. At that moment, the Resolute and her allies opened fire from the moon's shadow. Missiles and beams struck the supply ships, scattering them in panic. The second escort tried to turn, but its sensors were jammed by human tricks, signals that mimicked hundreds of false targets. The battle was over in minutes. The supply fleet burned. The humans vanished back into the shadows before reinforcements could arrive. News of the raid spread fast. Alien traders whispered it in every port. The humans strike like ghosts. The Draxians cannot catch them. For the first time, fear began to touch the warriors of the Empire. They were used to crushing enemies head-on, not chasing shadows. Back at the council chamber, ambassadors argued in hushed voices. A representative from a reptilian race muttered, "If the humans can wound the Draxians, perhaps they can do more. Perhaps they can even win." Others shook their heads. "Impossible. The Draxians are too strong." But doubt had entered their hearts, and that was something new. On the Draxion homeworld, the High Commander sat in his throne of steel, listening to the reports with growing fury. His claws scraped against the metal. "Humans," he hissed. "They fight without honor. They hide, they trick, they sting and run. This is not war, it is cowardice," yet he knew the truth. Whatever it was working. "Send more fleets," he ordered. "Double the patrols. Crush every human world you find." His generals bowed, but inside some wondered if their leader underestimated the humans. Pride had always been the Draxians' strength. Now, it was becoming their weakness. Meanwhile, Elias and his crew studied every detail they could find about their enemy. They read ancient battle records, watched old footage, and even spoke with alien traders who had once seen the Draxians in action. The same pattern appeared again and again. The Draxians never adapted. They relied on fear. They attacked directly. They assumed no one could outthink them. "That's our advantage," Elias told his officers. "They will never change. But we can change every day." On Haven 4, settlers rebuilt their homes. Children carried stones to repair walls. Engineers turned broken farm equipment into armor plates. Everyone worked, everyone trained. Governor Rana gave a speech in the square. Her voice carried over the rebuilt streets. "The Draxians want us afraid, but we have seen their weakness. They bleed, they fall. Remember that. We will not only defend, we will endure." The crowd cheered. Hope was no longer just a dream. It was alive in every heart. Weeks later, the Draxians returned, this time with a larger fleet. They expected an easy victory, but instead they found chaos. Human ships did not meet them in battle. Instead, they attacked from behind, struck at supply lines, and disappeared into asteroid fields. One Draxian captain shouted in anger as his sensors lit up with dozens of false signals. "Where are they?" His ship turned toward a false target, just as a real missile slammed into his engines. By the time the Draxian fleet regrouped, they had lost 3 ships. The humans were gone. On the bridge of the Resolute, Harper grinned. "They don't know what to do with us." "That's the point," Elias said. "Make them guess. Make them fear what they don't understand." He stared at the stars, knowing each small victory came at a cost. Supplies were running low. Ships were stretched thin. But morale was high, and morale was something the Draxians could not destroy. The galaxy continued to watch. More and more whispers spread among the stars. The humans fight differently. They cannot be controlled. Some species began to quietly offer help. Nothing open, not yet, but little things. Spare parts. Information about Draxian patrols. A warning of an ambush. It was not much, but it showed a shift. For the first time, the galaxy saw the Draxians as vulnerable. But the war was far from over. On the Draxian flagship, the High Commander stared at a star map filled with red markers. His voice rumbled like thunder. "They think they are clever. They think they can hide. Then let them hide. We will burn every system they touch until nothing remains." His eyes glowed with fury. "This is not just war anymore. This is a hunt." Elias, unaware of the full storm gathering, stood in the Resolute's observation deck. He looked down at a repaired Haven 4, lights glowing once more in the night. He thought of the people who depended on him, of the children who believed in the impossible. "They wanted fear," he whispered. "Instead, they gave us fire." The war was no longer about survival alone. It was about proving something greater, that humanity was not weak, not fragile, not prey. And as the stars burned with the promise of battles yet to come, one truth became clear. The galaxy's deadliest species had just met something they had never faced before, an enemy who would not quit. The Draxian Empire was furious. Their patrols reported losses again and again. Supply fleets were destroyed, outposts sabotaged, and their pride humiliated. The High Commander pounded his clawed fist against the throne of steel. "Enough!" he growled. "The humans will learn the cost of their arrogance." He ordered the largest fleet ever assembled to move toward human territory. Hundreds of ships, dozens of dreadnoughts armed to obliterate anything in their path. He wanted to make an example of humanity, a display of power no one could ignore. But Captain Elias Ward had already predicted this. On the Resolute, the crew gathered for their briefing. Holographic images of the approaching Draxian fleet filled the room. Lieutenant Harper swallowed nervously. "Sir, this is their full force. We cannot fight them head-on. We'll be destroyed." Elias leaned forward, his eyes calm but firm. "We will not fight them head-on. That is exactly what they expect. We will split their fleet, force them to fight on our terms, and strike where it hurts the most, Governor Rana added. And the colonies? They need to survive this. They will, Elias said. Every settlement will become a fortress, every person a fighter. If the Draxions think this will be an easy battle, they are wrong. They will face not just soldiers, but the ingenuity of every human alive. The plan was daring and dangerous. Humans would use diversionary strikes, hidden traps, and coordinated ambushes. Each colony had secret defense systems, camouflaged artillery, and fleets hidden in asteroid fields. The humans' unpredictability was their weapon. As the Draxion fleet approached the frontier, they found nothing but empty space and silence. Their sensors detected human ships only after they were already in a trap. In one sector, the Draxions followed what appeared to be a single cargo vessel. They did not notice the humans had attached decoy drones. The drones exploded as the enemy closed in, damaging engines and shields. The cargo vessel vanished. Again, one Draxion officer growled, astonished. How do they vanish like shadows? The High Commander's eyes burned with anger. They will not escape for long.
Target all sectors! Find them!
On Haven 4, children ran drills with their parents. Engineers maintained weapons disguised as everyday machines. Farmers prepared to fire improvised launchers from rooftops. Every human was part of the defense, and every human believed they could make a difference. Governor Rana spoke to the settlers. The Draxions want to scare us. They want to make us doubt ourselves. But they will see that humans are not so easy to break. Across the frontier, similar stories unfolded. Colonists who had once been terrified became teachers, engineers, and strategists. They built weapons, designed traps, and shared intelligence with each other. Humans were small, scattered, and seemingly weak, but together, they became a force the Draxions could not predict. Elias watched the reports come in from all colonies. Each strike, each trap, each ambush worked perfectly. The Draxions were frustrated. They could destroy ships, but humans kept appearing where they least expected. Lieutenant Harper shook his head. They're like ghosts, sir. How do they keep surviving? Elias smiled faintly. Because they think differently. They do not follow rules. They do not surrender. They adapt, and that is something the Draxions cannot understand. The first real battle of the campaign came near the asteroid belt of Ziffer 9. A large Draxion squadron moved to intercept human reinforcements. Elias had waited for them. The Resolute and several smaller human ships darted among the asteroids, using the terrain to their advantage. The Draxions fired directly, but the rocks shielded the humans. Mines detonated unexpectedly, crippling the lead ship. Laser fire ricocheted off asteroids, striking the enemy from blind angles. It was chaos, but it was planned chaos. Every human pilot knew their role, every trap had a purpose. Within hours, the Draxion squadron suffered heavy losses. They had underestimated human tactics. Again, Elias shouted over comms. Hit them where they think we cannot reach. By the end of the day, more than half of the attacking fleet was disabled. The humans had achieved what no one believed possible. They had turned the tide, at least temporarily. Across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. Alien species who had once dismissed humans now paid close attention. Traders, diplomats, and spies all reported the same. Humans fight differently. They are clever, adaptable, and relentless. Some began to wonder if humans could even win against the Draxions entirely. Others feared that a victorious humanity might challenge the old order of the galaxy. The High Commander, meanwhile, was furious. Pride, which had always been the Draxion strength, had become their weakness. Every plan failed because humans thought beyond expectation. We underestimated them, he growled to his officers. We cannot continue this way. They will learn to outsmart us unless we crush them completely. One officer dared to speak. High Commander, perhaps we should retreat, regroup, and strike when we are fully ready? The commander's eyes glowed. Retreat? His voice shook the room. Never. Humanity must learn fear. They will either die or they will bow. There is no middle ground. Back on Haven 4, the human fleet gathered for their next mission. The colonies were safe for now, but the war was far from over. Elias addressed his officers and crew. This is our chance, he said. The Draxions believe they are invincible. They believe they can scare us. They are wrong. Every colony we protect, every ship we save, every strike we make teaches them that humans cannot be controlled. This is not just survival, it is a statement. Lieutenant Harper looked at him. Do you think we can really win, sir? Elias looked at the stars, calm and unwavering. We may not win the war yet, but we are already winning respect. That is the first step. Remember this, humans do not quit. Not now, not ever. The next battle came near the gas giant Taurus V. The Draxions thought to trap the humans in the planet's thick atmosphere, but Elias had prepared carefully. Human ships plunged into the gas clouds, hiding among storms and lightning. Sensors scrambled. Draxion ships fired blindly, only to be met with hidden mines and unexpected ambushes. The Resolute struck swiftly, targeting command ships and disabling engines. By the time the Draxions realized the trick, half their fleet was scattered, damaged, or destroyed. The humans disappeared as quickly as they had appeared, leaving the Draxions angry, confused, and humiliated once again. Back on the frontier, settlers celebrated every victory, however small. Children learned to help with communications, engineers improved weapons, and farmers became scouts. Every human was part of the war effort. Governor Rana said to her people, "They may have the greatest armies, but we have something they cannot destroy, the human spirit." Her words echoed across the colonies, a promise and a warning. The galaxy was beginning to notice. Traders whispered, "The humans are not weak." Spies reported, "They are clever, unpredictable, relentless." Alien leaders who had dismissed Earth now approached with caution, sending minor aid secretly, just enough to see if humanity could survive. Even the Draxions began to hesitate. Pride made them overconfident, and overconfidence made them predictable. Elias knew he could use that. He stood on the Resolute's bridge looking at the stars. His crew worked tirelessly around him. They had won small battles, but the war was far from over. "They think they are in control," he said quietly, "but they are walking into a storm they cannot see." Lieutenant Harper nodded. "Then let's make sure the storm hits hard." Elias smiled faintly. "It already has, and somewhere deep in Draxion space, the High Commander realized for the first time that the humans were not just survivors. They were a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The war was turning, and humanity was ready to change the rules." The galaxy held its breath. The Draxion Empire, humiliated and enraged, had gathered the largest fleet in their history. Every dreadnought, battlecruiser, and fighter squadron moved toward human territory. Their target, Earth itself. The High Commander intended to crush the humans once and for all, but Captain Elias Ward had anticipated this. The Resolute and a fleet of human ships had taken position near the Vega cluster, a dense field of stars, asteroids, and gas clouds. Every system along the Draxion's path had been fortified with hidden human defenses, and the colonies had prepared traps, ambush points, and escape routes. Elias stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his eyes scanning the incoming fleet. Hundreds of red icons glowed on the tactical map, representing the enemy ships. His crew worked silently, every hand knowing its role. Lieutenant Harper approached, concern written across his face. "Sir, this is the largest fleet they've ever sent. They'll destroy everything in their path if we try to meet them head-on." Elias nodded. "We won't meet them head-on. We will meet them where they least expect us, strike them where it hurts most, and disappear before they can retaliate. The Draxions think they are hunters. We will show them that humans are storms." The first engagement began near Taurus V. Draxion ships moved in tight formation, confident that nothing could stop them. Their sensors swept the area for humans, but all they found were false signals, decoy ships, and empty space. Then the attacks came. Human fighters darted out of asteroid fields, hitting supply ships before disappearing into storms of gas and dust. Mines hidden in debris fields tore through Draxion frigates. Every strike was precise, calculated, and unexpected. The Draxions roared in frustration. Their pride had been wounded repeatedly, but this time the humans were not just defending, they were striking back. On Haven 4, settlers watched the battle from reinforced observation towers. Families and soldiers alike cheered as they saw Draxion ships explode in fireballs. Children hid behind barricades, eyes wide with wonder, as the humans proved that courage could outmatch even the deadliest enemy. Governor Rana spoke into the colony's communication system. "Today we do not just survive.
Today we fight."
Today we prove that humanity cannot be crushed." Her voice carried across the frontier, rallying humans on distant worlds. Every small colony became part of the war effort. Every human a contributor to the fight for survival. The Draxion High Commander, watching the reports on his flagship, slammed his clawed hand against the console.
They defy us.
How can they be everywhere at once? One of his generals dared to suggest a retreat. High Commander, perhaps it is better to withdraw and regroup. The humans, withdraw? The commander bellowed. Never! Humanity will pay for their arrogance. Send all ships forward. Leave nothing alive. Yet even as he spoke, doubt began to creep into the minds of his officers. This was the first time in history they had faced a species that fought with both courage and unpredictability. Elias had studied the Draxions carefully. He knew their pride, their predictability, and their refusal to adapt when plans failed. The humans would use this to their advantage. He activated the next phase of his plan: divide and conquer. Small human fleets moved quickly to lure Draxion ships into asteroid fields, narrow star lanes, and gas clouds. Each time the humans struck, damaged enemy ships, and vanished. The Draxions pursued blindly, walking into traps and ambushes they could not anticipate. Elias addressed his crew calmly. Remember, we do not fight them by strength. We fight them by being smarter, faster, and braver than they expect. We fight with every resource at our disposal, and we do not quit. Humanity never quits. The final confrontation occurred in orbit above Earth itself. The Draxions intended to destroy the planet, make an example of humanity, and send a message to the galaxy. But the humans had prepared carefully. The Resolute and allied ships from nearby colonies positioned themselves strategically. Draxion dreadnoughts moved confidently, but the humans had turned Earth's orbit into a fortress. Mines, hidden satellites, and surprise attack vectors waited for the invaders. The battle began with chaos. Draxion ships fired relentlessly, but human defenses absorbed the impact. Hidden cannons struck at their engines. Mines detonated beneath their hulls. Fighters darted in and out, striking critical targets before vanishing into the void. Even the Draxion fleet, trained for centuries in destruction, could not anticipate the humans' ingenuity. During the battle, Elias realized that a direct confrontation with the High Commander could decide the war. The Draxion flagship loomed above the planet, radiating deadly power. Elias knew that attacking it directly was almost suicidal, but it could also force the enemy to retreat if done correctly. He spoke to his crew. We will strike their command ship. This is dangerous, but it is our best chance. Trust each other. Trust humanity. The human fleet moved in perfect coordination. Decoy fleets distracted the main Draxion forces while the Resolute and its escort ships charged toward the flagship. The Draxions fired, but the humans weaved through the onslaught, exploiting gaps in their enemy's formation. Elias engaged the flagship directly. The Draxion High Commander stared down at the humans approaching. They dare approach me, Elias responded through comms, his voice calm but firm. We do not bow. We do not fear. Humanity will not be broken. The flagship fired full power. The Resolute's shield shuddered under the assault. Sparks and energy arcs flashed across the bridge as the crew stayed focused. Using every trick, every feint, every diversion, the humans closed in. Then Elias struck. Precision torpedoes disabled the flagship's main engines. The human fleet unleashed concentrated fire on its weapon systems. The Draxion warship, feared across the galaxy, was suddenly crippled. For the first time, the High Commander realized the truth. Humans were not weak. They were clever, brave, and relentless. His pride, which had fueled his entire empire, now became his downfall. Impossible, he muttered. They cannot be stopped. Elias spoke once more, calm and strong. They will not break us. They never could. With the flagship crippled, the remaining Draxion fleet faltered. Smaller human strikes destroyed key ships, forcing the High Commander to order a retreat. For the first time in history, the Draxions withdrew without victory. On the surface, humans cheered. Earth was safe. Haven 4 and all frontier colonies survived. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven its spirit and ingenuity. They had faced the deadliest species in the galaxy and lived to tell the tale. Governor Rana addressed the people. You have fought bravely. You have shown courage beyond measure. Today, humanity proves that strength is not just in weapons or numbers, but in heart, mind, and will. The words resonated across every colony. They were not just survivors, they were warriors, innovators, and humans. The galaxy watched in awe. Alien species whispered in astonishment. Humans are unlike anything we have ever faced. Even the Draxions, despite their pride and fury, had no choice but to respect humanity. Captain Elias Ward stood on the Resolute's observation deck. The stars shimmered and the planet below glowed softly. Children laughed, families hugged, and soldiers rested, tired but proud. They thought we were weak, he whispered to himself. They forgot humans do not quit. Lieutenant Harper approached. Sir, what now? Elias smiled faintly. Now we continue. We prepare, we survive. And if anyone dares underestimate humanity again, they will see what it means to challenge us. And somewhere, across the galaxy, the Draxion High Commander pondered the lesson he had learned. The humans cannot be controlled, cannot be broken, and will always rise. The war had not ended, but one truth was clear. Humanity had shown the galaxy its true power, not in fleets or weapons, but in spirit, courage, and unyielding determination. For the first time, the galaxy realized that humans were not just survivors, they were a force to be reckoned with. And in every corner of human space, one phrase became a rallying cry: we do not bow, we do not quit. We are human. The war was far from over, but humanity had already won the most important victory of all, the victory of respect, spirit, and hope.